When you walk through a bustling city, what do you see? Towering buildings, busy roads, shops filled with people, the constant flow of traffic. It all seems so normal, so out in the open. But what if I told you that the world you see is only half the story? What if the most powerful forces shaping our lives are the ones we can't see at all? History is full of turning points, major events that change the course of everything. We learn about the public figures, the famous battles, and the signed treaties. But behind the scenes, away from the public eye, another kind of history was being written. This is the story of secret societies. These are organizations that operate in the shadows, keeping their members, their goals, and their rituals hidden from the outside world. Why the secrecy? Well, their motives have been as varied as the societies themselves. Some were formed to protect ancient knowledge or forbidden wisdom from being destroyed. Others rose up as underground resistance movements, fighting against tyranny and injustice when open rebellion was impossible. And, of course, some were created for a more selfish reason, to gain power, wealth, and influence over society. Think about it. From the ancient world to the modern era, these hidden networks have left their fingerprints all over history. They've been rumored to influence politics, spark scientific revolutions, and even challenge the authority of entire religions. Some say they've started wars, toppled kings, and secretly guided the hands of leaders we all know from our history books. Now, it's easy to get lost in the legends and conspiracy theories. Stories about secret societies are often exaggerated, romanticized, or just completely misunderstood. Separating fact from fiction can be a huge challenge. But here's what we know for sure. Powerful, organized groups operating in secret have always existed. The Knights Templar, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians. Names aren't just from novels and movies. They were real groups, with real members and real ambitions. The Knights Templar, for example, started as a poor order of monks, but became one of the wealthiest and most powerful institutions in the medieval world, creating an international banking system that kings relied on. The Illuminati, though they only existed for a short time, had a radical vision of a world free from the control of church and Satan idea that terrified the monarchies of Europe. These societies created intricate codes, secret handshakes, and symbolic rituals to identify each other and protect their secrets. Their members often had to swear oaths of loyalty, promising to never reveal what happened behind closed doors. This secrecy is what makes them so fascinating, but also so feared. People naturally distrust what they can't see. So, while we go about our daily lives in the visible world, it's worth remembering that there's always been an invisible world running parallel to our own. A world of hidden meetings, whispered plans, and secret networks. The impact of these groups is undeniable. Even if we can't always trace the exact lines of their influence, they remind us that history is not just a collection of public events, but a complex web of both visible and invisible forces. The next time you look at the world around you, ask yourself, what parts of this story am I not seeing? Have you ever wondered why secret societies exist? It's not always about shadowy conspiracies or world domination like in the movies. The real reasons are often far more human and, in many cases, a matter of survival. Throughout history, people have formed secret groups for some pretty powerful reasons. Let's dive into why secrecy has been such a vital tool for so many. Imagine living in a time when a new idea, a different belief, or even a scientific discovery could get you locked up, exiled, or worse. In eras of intense political or religious persecution, speaking your mind openly was a death sentence. This is where secret societies became sanctuaries. They were safe havens where thinkers, religious reformers, and revolutionaries could gather without fear. Think of the early Enlightenment philosophers or religious minorities. Meeting in secret allowed them to share and develop ideas that would eventually change the world, all while staying hidden from the watchful eyes of those in power. It was a shield that protected progress itself. Another major reason for secrecy was the protection of valuable knowledge. Before patents and copyrights, a group's specialized skills were their livelihood. Guilds of stonemasons, for example, held the secrets to building magnificent cathedrals. Their techniques were passed down through generations in strict secrecy. If everyone knew how to do it, their craft would lose its value. This wasn't just about construction. It applied to alchemists trying to turn lead into gold, healers with knowledge of rare medicinal herbs, and spiritual groups who believed they held sacred, divine teachings. Secrecy ensured that this precious knowledge wouldn't be lost, misused, or fall into the wrong hands. It was a way of preserving a legacy. Of course, we can't talk about secret societies without mentioning resistance and rebellion. When people are living under an oppressive ruler or a foreign occupation, organizing in the open is impossible. Secret groups have been the backbone of countless resistance movements throughout history. From patriots plotting for independence to underground networks helping people escape tyranny, secrecy was their most crucial weapon. It allowed them to plan, coordinate, and recruit members right under the noses of their enemies. In these situations, a single leak could unravel the entire operation and lead to disaster. Secrecy wasn't just a preference, it was a fundamental requirement for the fight for freedom. But there's also a deep psychological element to it. Secrecy builds an incredibly powerful bond. When you share a secret with someone, you're placing your trust in them. This act creates a unique sense of connection and loyalty that you just do you and get in an open group. Members of a secret society often feel like a close-knit family, united by their shared knowledge and mutual risk. This intense bond is what helps these groups endure, sometimes for centuries. The rituals, the secret handshakes, the coded language, it all reinforces this feeling of belonging to something special and exclusive. It makes members feel they are part of a legacy that is bigger than themselves. So, the next time you hear about a secret society, remember that it's often not just about mystery for mystery's sake. It's born from a need for safety, a desire to protect precious knowledge, a fight for freedom, and the powerful human need for connection and trust. These groups show us that sometimes the most influential changes start in the quietest, most hidden corners of society. Have you ever wondered why we say, knowledge is power? It's not just a modern catchphrase. This idea is woven into the very fabric of human history. For thousands of years, the ability to read and write was a rare skill, a privilege reserved for the elite. The scribes of ancient Egypt, the scholars of Rome, the clergy of the Middle Ages, these were the people who held the keys to information. By controlling who could learn, they controlled society itself. They shaped laws, interpreted religious texts, and decided what parts of history were worth recording. For the average person, the world of letters was a locked room. But human curiosity is a powerful force, and it refuses to be contained. Throughout history, whenever knowledge was suppressed, brave individuals and groups worked in the shadows to keep the flame alive. Think about it. When empires fell and great libraries like the one in Alexandria were lost, where did all that wisdom go? It didn't just vanish. It was preserved, piece by piece, by dedicated people who understood its value. Secret societies, often demonized in popular culture, played a crucial role. Groups like the Gnostics or later, certain alchemical and philosophical circles, weren't just about strange rituals. They were guardians of forbidden ideas and ancient texts that challenged the mainstream narrative. They created networks to share books, translate forgotten languages, and teach skills that were otherwise lost. These weren't grand, public universities. These were quiet gatherings in private homes, hidden workshops, and secret archives. A teacher would whisper lessons to a handful of trusted students, passing on knowledge like a sacred trust. This underground railroad of knowledge wasn't limited to secret societies. Monks in remote monasteries painstakingly copied manuscripts, not just religious texts, but also works of Greek philosophy, Roman engineering, and Arabic science. They were the hard drives of the ancient world, ensuring that the wisdom of one generation could reach the next, even through centuries of chaos and conflict. Without their quiet, meticulous work, the Renaissance might never have happened. The rediscovery of classical art, science, and philosophy that sparked a new age of enlightenment was only possible because these texts survived. Why was this knowledge so dangerous? Because knowledge inspires questions. It encourages people to think for themselves, to challenge authority, and to imagine a different world. When a farmer learned to read, he could question the fairness of a contract. When an artisan studied geometry, she could improve her craft and her livelihood. When a citizen read history, they could see the patterns of power and corruption. This is why rulers and dogmatic leaders so often resorted to burning books and persecuting thinkers. They weren't afraid of paper and ink. They were afraid of the ideas they contained. They knew that an educated populace is much harder to control. This struggle for knowledge continues today, though the battleground has shifted. The internet has become the new Alexandria, a vast, decentralized library accessible to billions. But the old patterns remain. We see attempts to control information through censorship, misinformation campaigns, and the creation of digital echo chambers. The fight to preserve open access to information, to promote critical thinking, and to distinguish truth from falsehood is the modern version of that ancient struggle. So, the next time you pick up a book, watch a documentary, or learn a new skill online, take a moment to appreciate the long, often perilous journey that knowledge has taken to reach you. It's a legacy passed down through generations of secret scholars, brave librarians, and quiet rebels who believed that ideas were worth protecting, even at the risk of their own lives. They knew that while power built on force can crumble, power built on knowledge can change. Have you ever wondered about the secrets whispered in the corridors of power? The hidden knowledge passed down through generations? The story of secret societies doesn't start with shadowy figures in cloaks and daggers. It begins thousands of years ago, in the ancient world, with something called mystery schools. Imagine ancient Egypt, under the watchful eyes of the Sphinx and the pyramids. Here, priests and scholars gathered in exclusive schools, teaching philosophy, astronomy, and sacred rituals. But this wasn't like school today. Knowledge was considered a divine gift, something sacred that had to be earned. Only the most dedicated and worthy students were initiated. They would spend years, sometimes a lifetime, proving that commitment before being trusted with the deepest secrets of the universe. They took vows of absolute silence, swearing never to reveal what they learned to the outside world. This secrecy wasn't about hiding something evil. It was about protecting wisdom they believed could be dangerous in the wrong hands. Now, let's travel across the Mediterranean to ancient Greece, the cradle of Western philosophy. Think of names like Pythagoras, the genius behind the Pythagorean theorem we all learned in math class. He was more than just a mathematician. He was the head of a mystery school. His followers, the Pythagoreans, lived in a commune, sharing everything and dedicating their lives to the pursuit of knowledge. They believed that numbers were the key to understanding the cosmos, that everything, from music to the movement of planets, could be explained through mathematics. New members had to endure a long probationary period, sometimes years of silent observation, before they were allowed to even hear Pythagoras speak. Their secrets were jealously guarded, and legend has it that one member who revealed a mathematical discovery was drowned at sea. For them, secrecy was a sacred duty. The same pattern appears across the globe. In ancient China, Dueski's masters passed on their knowledge of alchemy, medicine, and the quest for immortality to a select few disciples. These teachings were often transmitted orally, from master to student, in remote monasteries hidden deep in the mountains. This ensured that the profound and sometimes powerful techniques of controlling one's own life force, or ki, were only accessible to those who had proven their moral character and spiritual discipline. The secrecy was a way to preserve the purity of the teachings and prevent their misuse. And in ancient India, the gurus and sages developed profound philosophical systems and spiritual practices, like yoga and meditation. The Vedas and Upanishads, the sacred texts, contain layers of meaning, and the deepest insights were reserved for initiates who had renounced worldly attachments. These students would live with their teacher, serving them and absorbing their wisdom over many years. The knowledge was considered so potent that revealing it to the unprepared was seen as spiritually irresponsible. It was a path of personal transformation. It had to be earned through dedication, discipline, and a rigorous initiation process. The oaths of silence and loyalty weren't just about keeping secrets. They were about creating a bond of trust and shared purpose among the initiates. These schools weren't just teaching facts, they were shaping character, building communities, and exploring the very nature of reality. They created a culture of exclusivity and hidden knowledge that would echo through the centuries, from the temples of Egypt to the philosophical groves of Greece. These early groups planted the seeds from which countless later secret societies would grow. They established the blueprint for organizations that operate in the shadows, guarding ancient wisdom and pursuing hidden agendas. The story of secret societies is the story of humanity's eternal quest for knowledge and the enduring question of who deserves to possess it. Who are the masterminds and skilled hands behind these architectural miracles? Especially in an age without modern computers, cranes, or power tools. The answer lies with one of the most fascinating and secretive groups in history. The medieval builder guilds. Back in the Middle Ages, if you were a mason, a carpenter, or any kind of craftsman involved in building these giant cathedrals, you didn't just learn your trade from a book. They took care of sick or injured workers, supported the widows and orphans of deceased members, and ensured that fair wages were paid. By shared knowledge, mutual trust, and secret oaths. Now, here's a thought that has fascinated historians for centuries. Does any of this sound familiar? A brotherhood with secret handshakes, symbols, and a system of moral and philosophical teachings. Many scholars believe that the practices and structures of these medieval builder guilds laid the groundwork for modern fraternal organizations, most notably the Freemasons. And compass as symbols, the emphasis on geometry, the degrees of initiation, and the concept of a brotherhood that transcends national borders. While the direct lineage is a topic of much debate, the influence is undeniable. The secretive guilds of cathedral builders didn't just leave us with breathtaking stone monuments. They may have also left a legacy that continues to echo in fraternal societies around the world today. So, the next time you look up at a soaring cathedral arch, remember the secret societies that made it possible. Remember the master builders who traveled across continents, sharing their sacred knowledge through hidden signs and symbols, creating a legacy of beauty and mystery that continues to inspire. Their stories a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest innovations are born from closely guarded secrets. Ever wondered how ancient organizations could become so powerful they'd rival kings? Let's dive into the fascinating world of religious orders, particularly the legendary Knights Templar. Picture this. It's the Middle Ages, and traveling to the Holy Land is a dangerous journey. Pilgrims needed protection, and that's where orders like the Templar stepped in. They were part warrior, part monk, dedicated to safeguarding travelers on these treacherous roads. But their role didn't stop at just being bodyguards. The Knights Templar developed one of the earliest and most sophisticated international banking systems. Imagine a pilgrim in London needing funds in Jerusalem. Instead of carrying chests of gold and risking robbery, they could deposit their money at a Templar preceptory in England and receive a letter of credit. Upon arriving in the Holy Land, they'd present this letter and withdraw their funds. It was revolutionary for its time, a medieval version of a wire transfer. This system allowed them to manage enormous sums of money, not just for pilgrims, but for kings and nobles too. This financial genius, combined with donations of land and wealth from patrons across Europe, made the Templars incredibly rich and influential. They built a sprawling network of castles, churches, and farms, stretching from Britain all the way to the Middle East. They weren't just a military order. They were a multinational corporation with immense economic power. Other orders, like the Knights Hospitaller, also grew powerful, focusing more on medical care, but still accumulating significant wealth and territory. But with great power comes great envy. Kings, particularly Philip IV of France, started to see the Templars not as allies, but as a threat. Philip was deeply in debt to the order and eyed their immense fortune. He saw their international network as a state within a state, an organization whose loyalty was to the Pope, not to him. This fear and greed culminated in a dramatic and brutal crackdown. On Friday the 13th, 1307, a date that has been considered unlucky ever since, Philip ordered the arrest of all Templars in France. They were accused of heresy, blasphemy, and all sorts of terrible crimes. Under torture, many confessed to things they likely never did. The order was officially disbanded by the Pope a few years later, and its assets were seized or transferred to other orders. The Grand Master Jacques de Molay was burned at the stake, famously cursing the king and the Pope from the flames. It was a swift and shocking downfall for one of the most powerful organizations in the medieval world. But did they truly disappear? This is where history blurs into legend. Rumors have persisted for centuries that the Templars didn't just vanish. Some say a small, loyal group escaped the arrests, taking with them the order's legendary treasure and sacred relics. These are the questions that have fueled countless books, movies, and conspiracy theories. The idea that a powerful, clandestine network could survive its own destruction is a captivating one. Whether fact or fiction, the story of the Knights Templar serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly fortunes can change and how legends can outlive even the mightiest of empires. Thanks for watching. If you've found this journey into history fascinating, have you ever wondered about the secrets behind that mysterious eye on the dollar bill? Or maybe you've heard whispers about a powerful, ancient society that has shaped our world from the shadows. Today, we are re-pulling back the curtain on one of history's most fascinating and misunderstood organizations, the Freemasons. So, what exactly is Freemasonry? It's not a secret society, but rather a society with secrets. Its origins trace back to the medieval stonemason guilds of Europe. These were the master craftsmen, the builders of the magnificent cathedrals that still stand today. They had specialized knowledge, a unique set of skills, and they guarded their trade secrets closely. As the era of cathedral building wound down, these guilds of operative masons gradually transformed into something different. They became groups of speculative masons. Instead of building physical structures, their new mission was to build better men. This new form of Freemasonry focused on self-improvement, using the tools and symbols of stone masonry as metaphors for personal growth. The square taught them to be fair and honest in their dealings. The compasses reminded them to keep their passions in check. The ultimate goal, to take a good man and make him better, fostering a spirit of brotherhood, charity, and unwavering moral integrity. This philosophy of enlightenment and personal development attracted some of the brightest minds of the 17th and 18th centuries. Think about the Age of Enlightenment, a time of explosive new ideas about liberty, reason, and individual rights. Masonic lodges became safe havens for these discussions. In an era when many governments heavily censored free speech and new ideas could get you into serious trouble, lodges were sanctuaries where men could openly debate philosophy, science, and politics without fear. This environment of intellectual freedom was magnetic. It's no surprise that the membership rolls of Freemasonry read like a who's who of history. In America, founding fathers like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Paul Revere were all dedicated Masons. Their belief in liberty, equality, and fraternity core Masonic tenets were woven directly into the fabric of the new nation. Across the Atlantic, figures like the composer Mozart, the writer Voltaire, and Sir Winston Churchill were also part of the Brotherhood. These weren't just powerful men who happened to be Masons. Their Masonic ideals often fueled their contributions to society, from politics and art to science and literature. But what about all the symbols and rituals, the secret handshakes, the symbolic aprons, the mysterious ceremonies? This is where a lot of the public curiosity and conspiracy theories come from. For Masons, these rituals are not about sinister plots. They are allegorical plays, moral lessons, designed to teach the fraternity's core values in a memorable and impactful way. Each symbol, from the all-seeing eye representing the watchfulness of a higher power, to the liturgy symbolizing both God and geometry, holds a deep layer of meaning meant to guide a member on his personal journey of enlightenment. Over the centuries, the influence of Freemasonry has been immense, yet often subtle. Their commitment to charity is a perfect example. Freemasons have founded countless hospitals, schools, and orphanages around the world, making them one of the largest charitable organizations globally. They do this work quietly, not for public recognition, but because charity is a cornerstone of their beliefs. So, while the mystique and symbolism of Freemasonry continue to capture our imagination, its true legacy is far less about secret plots and far more about the enduring pursuit of personal betterment, the bonds of brotherhood, and the quiet, steady work of making the world a slightly better place, one man at a time. It's a story not of global domination, but of personal transformation and quiet influence that is echoed through the halls of history. What do you think is the most interesting aspect of Freemasonry? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this journey into history, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world.